Hi, and welcome to Inside Delaware. Tim Qualls with my good friend Tom Gordon, and I'm excited because Tom Gordon has decided to step back up and run for county executive once again. And Tom, how are you?
I'm doing well, and it's really good to see you. You look well.
Years have passed by, but a lot of things have happened and everything. Before we even get started, Tom, because I think it's important people know, Abraham Lincoln, who I'm a big fan of, once said, you stand beside somebody as long as they're right, and once you don't feel they're right anymore, you move away from them. I never left your side, and a lot of people in this county never left your side because you kind of got railroaded. Right. Politics will do that to you, and you kind of got caught up in a bunch of stuff because you had some people that worked for the county that got into some things they shouldn't have got into, but it all fell back because you're the man, you know. And I want people to understand when it all was said and done, you got what was your final?
A $250 fine for somebody was politicking, and I should have known it.
Yeah. Somebody was politicking during their lunchtime, and
I'm responsible for it.
And you held your responsible. You were responsible for that, and out of all that stuff, but it tarnished your name so bad of all the other things that were going on that you were.
It was all dropped.
Yeah, it was all dropped and taken care of because there was really nothing there. It was kind of like I said, a railroad job. But I want to talk about the good things because that was the only negative thing that was there. I want to talk about the good things that happened while you were in office. First of all, I believe you ran for 2 terms.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and in that time, how many times you raised the taxes?
I promised I wouldn't raise taxes. I was the only politician in Delaware, in county government that ever held that promise. Everybody promises not to raise taxes, but they always do, just like my opponent. And we went 8 years without a tax increase. We actually lowered on seniors, and we didn't do a property tax for the 8 years. We got new money, which we were able to raise from the state with transferring a transfer tax that they were collecting to us without raising taxes. And we left the government in about $185 million surplus after going on a lot of work.
And it just blows my mind because within, you had all this. And I want people to understand too, because a lot of people jumped in and took credit for a lot of things you initiated and put, and got started. All these libraries, the new libraries, refurbishing all those. I remember when you and I sat and talked about when you began that project and opened the first one and that continued on, but you got no credit for it. You weren't even at any of the ribbon cuttings.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And you did that, and I also want to talk about, Bear. You opened up one of the biggest parks that we have now in the county.
That's right.
And started that process. Of course, there again, no credit for that either.
I didn't get any. The hard part about that, when I was elected, Bear was very Glasgow, very crowded. And it had 90,000 people, didn't have a park, didn't have a library. So we had to actually buy that land from commercial. And we bought it, and we began to do the park, and the park was designed and moving when I left office. But I certainly didn't get invited to the ribbon cutting.
No.
But no one knows that my administration had the foresight to do that park. And it's a beautiful park. Now, it's much needed, and we had nothing like that. And we did the Bear Library. That was done before I left. In the shopping center. It was done early in my administration. And we did the one in Brady 100 before I left. The ones that were built after I left was in the city, where it was over at the old motor vehicle location. And that one was built after I left.
Yeah, but you initiated all that, and the plans were there to redo.
Funded it, initiated it.
Yeah, it was all there to redo all the libraries, and that's pretty much taken place. The one on Kirkwood Highway, they finally got to, and this one and that one. But I want people to understand that was, as our leader of our government, that's what your job is, to be sure.
Absolutely.
And we had the ice cream festival still.
Which I want to talk about. Rockwood was beautiful. It's kind of falling apart now, deteriorating.
Right.
And it's just a shame because it wouldn't have taken much to maintain it.
Right.
Carousel, it's falling apart. Yeah, there it is, in the middle of 65,000 people, a beautiful respite for people to go to, and it's falling apart. And those are the kind of things that we saw that was very valuable. Quality of life. Like, for example, we had to sleep under the stars. It cost hardly any money at all. You bring your child, you get a tent, 5,000 people. And it was all stopped. And it's just a shame because in this day and age, you need a chance to get away from your suburban home. Those parks were beautiful. We need to bring that back.
Yeah, and when you're talking about that, and what amazed me is that you were able to do all that you did. And when you left, $185 million in surplus. I mean, that's what we had in the bank. We had that ready, and where's that at today?
Well, they want to say that, that was because we had good times. Let me explain that. Took office, we had a $100 million shortfall, much like it is now. we had to collapse the government. They had 10 departments. We brought it into 5. We moved some things around, some programs that weren't valuable anymore we got rid of. So we were able to reduce the budget. Nobody ever did that before. -2, -1%. We got some new revenue. By the 3rd, 4th year, we started making money. And we took it from $100 million, which was going to be a shortfall, which means in debt, to $185 million left when I left off.
So that's $285 million turnaround
Right.
that we're talking about versus just $185 million. Because when Tom, I'm telling you folks, when he went in there, people say, well, the time was good and everybody, that wasn't the case because you inherited. I remember when you went there. I mean, I thought you were nuts because you've given so much to this community. That's what I want people to understand. How much, because family's a big value to you. Jen, your daughter, I met her the other day, and very lovely young lady,
Good girl.
But you have given so much to this community. When I say that, you started out as a police officer. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I started out as a police officer in 1975. I worked my way up through the ranks, and I became chief of police in 1989 for 8 years. And we were a very progressive police department. We turned it around, made it community-oriented, did community police stations, solved a lot of crime. I was very proud of it, and I need to see that return to its glory. We're going to work on that.
Because I remember we did a lot of coverage of it when you were in office of the county police and everything else, and the things that you put in place that were there then that don't exist today. I just can't. In my mind, I can't see what's happened to that money because I remember, and I talked to Mayor Baker himself when he was in there first came in. There was a shortfall in the city and they needed help, and he turned to the county, and you guys were able to loan the city money.
And let me explain that. We were well over $185 million. It was getting to be very large. And at the very end of my term, we took about $40 million and we split it up, and it went to very needy things. The City of Wilmington Fire Department, City of Wilmington Police Department, some nonprofits. And what my opponent's going to try to say is my last year we left $20 million short, $20 million debt. Well, anybody that knows finances, we gave those grants away the last year, which created more money going out than coming in. But the following year, it was only a one-time grant, the budget went right back to $185 million. So they're going to try to say, and you need to pay attention to this, he's going to hit me with, we left a deficit. Well, it was 1 year with we had so much in surplus that when you give a grant away, it's not built into your base. You only pay it for 1 year. So you didn't grow the budget. But he'll take a snapshot and say, that last year you left us $20 million in debt. Well, there was $185 million in the bank. So pay attention to that because it's going to come in the form of a mailing.
Yeah, it always, and I keep saying, it's time we take politics out of government. How do we do that? I mean,
you educate the public.
Yeah, and that's why we're sitting here today, to be sure that you get educated and everything, because I want people to understand how many, nothing against Chris Coons, but Chris Coons was the one that inherited behind you. He's now in our Senate seat up there. But when he came in tax increases?
There was over the last 8 years, over the last few years, 54% tax increase and a 70% sewer increase. And there's going to be a whole lot more if we don't do the same thing we did in '97, get in there and do some cuts.
Yeah.
You're going to be seeing some huge tax increases because it's literally $80 million right now. We're spending money we don't have. We're building things that we don't have money for. And there'll be no taxes in an election year, but I can promise you, you are going to be taxed to death.
Yeah.
If
well, I saw it. I couldn't believe, how rapidly that jump after you left office, and how many times, especially in the last couple of years here, we've been hit and hit and hit. I mean, how much more can we give when we're paying over 35% of what we make out of our pockets now?
Look, we cannot raise taxes. It's a horrible time. And they'll all say they won't raise taxes, but let's just promise you, I said it, I never did it, and I won't. But it's kind of a rite of passage. You got to say, I will not raise taxes. But if you don't have a plan, you're raising it big time. And you saw that. I told you it was coming. And to think that you're 54% in property taxes, I mean, that's tremendous. At a time where the economy was dying.
Yeah.
We got foreclosures all over the place. A lot of that's because of that.
Yeah, and when you start talking about that, I mean, going from, because one of the incentives I tell people over in New Jersey and Philadelphia and all that, move to Delaware because the property taxes are so low. Well, now we're starting to gain. I mean, are we going to keep going until we reach what they are? I mean, and that's unbelievable.
That's what they usually say. That's what these politicians will say, that we don't pay that much in taxes. But pay attention. You pay a lot more in income tax, because in this state, the state of Delaware does half the libraries, half the police in Newcastle County, and they do half of the parks. So you're paying a very large income tax. And if our property tax go up to where the other states are, we're going to be the highest taxed people in the country.
Yeah.
There's a reason ours are low. Because it doesn't do that much service. We don't provide that much service. And we get paid well enough we get enough taxes to do the services. And that's very important. We know we don't want to get in other people's money. And when I went in office, I said, how much are we going to have in the next 2 years? That's why we had to cut the budget, because we didn't have enough to run the government. We weren't going to do a tax increase. Find somebody that'll stick to that promise. You need that promise kept more than anything.
Right? Now, you've had a chance, because I know, because I want people to understand, once you left office, you had some things you had to take care of on that end of it, but after that was resolved, you never have left your public service. Anytime that there was an issue of any kind or whatever, I want people to understand, because I get to go to a lot of these things, and I'd always look in the crowd, and there's Tom Gordon.
I was involved so much and stayed involved. I was chairman of the Police Athletic League. I'm on the Lampa board. I'm on the Dixon Coalition board. And on and on. I volunteer. I go to, but it takes a lot of time. And I was very glad to do it, because I kept busy. I did not ever plan on running again. I didn't think. One of the things that drove me to this is the development code. I mean, it was a very, if you remember when I took office, I created a moratorium. I've got everybody in the room. We created a fundamentally fair document that was predictable, called the Unified Development Code. Well, back then it was owned by the developers, and it is now owned by the developers. You're going to see development that doesn't make sense, and it's really who you know. And if the economy gets cranking, it's going to be a horrible thing. We've got to get the unified, we've got to get the land use back under control. It's got to be returned to the public and the business community together, not the way it is now. So that was one of the main reasons. And the other is, I also got the 54% tax increase. I made phone calls to try to tell them not to do that. But I am one that doesn't like tax increases, and one that likes to see a fair, predictable process in land use. I know what happens when one side owns it, and we're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, because I don't know, I guess that is politicking when you talk about it, the way that you were able to get people to work together. We talk about it, and our president's talked about it when he was elected and all that. And I've never seen anybody do it as much as you did. And when I say that, you got different police departments out here, and folks don't understand the politics that's within those police departments. You had all them guys working together. And I know that when you're going back in, let's talk about the county police department, for example. I mean,
sure.
One of your pride and joys, of course, being the
yes.
ex-chief of the police department there. And what do you see?
They were saving money by letting the numbers fall to almost a third of the police department was vacant, 70-some spots. And now they're trying, now the crime is taking over Wilmington and parts of the county. They can't get the numbers up high enough to, for example, help Wilmington right now. You've got to make public safety a priority, because if you don't have a safe community, you can't have businesses, you can't have families. So my public safety was a priority. We made sure that they were funded well, the equipment was, and they were up to the numbers that we had authorized. And that'll happen again immediately, because you've got to get the streets back. We've got to get some of them community police stations back open. We've got to help cooperate with the city of Wilmington and make sure that we declare war on our own criminals. And right now, they're playing catch up, and the morale over there is terrible. The officers are frustrated. And that goes for the paramedics and the 911 center.
Well, there's nothing like getting called out on a 911 call, and you're looking for that support that was seconds away. Now it's minutes away, and you know as well as I do, when you're a police officer on a call, seconds are very valuable. When you got to wait on your backup longer than what you need to, you could be you're putting everybody in danger. Everybody in danger.
The police officers have endorsed me. And it's not because they think they're going to get a salary. They're going to get the respect, the equipment, and I know policing, and I'm going to let them run it the way they need to run it. And I'm very proud of that endorsement. But,
yeah, well, let's talk about endorsements, because it's not just me. I mean, I've always, like I said, I've stood beside you, because I get to deal with a lot of politicians, and I've always stayed neutral. I've never got involved with politics. It's something that I haven't. I've talked to guys and stuff, but I never really got involved with it. When I heard that you were wanting to step back out, and
it must be crazy.
Yeah, I thought, well, it's something, but it's a need. We've got to have it, Tom. We need somebody in there that knows what the hell they're doing, that can get in there, get our budget straightened out first of all, because you know as well as I do, people, you think it's bad right now with it. I mean, we haven't cleaned up a deficit. We're still every day. We're still going.
You don't manage, you go to the tax base.
Yeah.
Don't manage, raise taxes.
Yeah.
But my endorsements have been awesome. I have started out with the county police, and then it became the fraternal order police for the state, which is mostly all the police departments, along with probation and parole. And then I've got the AFL asked me, and then I got the AFL-CIO, which is mostly all labor in the whole state, and corrections authority. So I'm very proud of the working men and women who respect me enough to come back and work with everybody to try to get the police departments working together, the communities, the towns.
Well, they all saw what I saw. When you've done and accomplished what you have accomplished, and it's one of those deals. You're not going to be very well liked amongst the politicians, and you weren't the last time. And that's kind of why. And it's a shame, because people start digging, looking for the little things that, okay, we got to find something to get this guy out of here. And I tell everybody, I said, Tom, I got a raw deal. You got railroaded. I mean,
I was tough. I was tough when things went bad in the development. I stopped that hotel that shouldn't have been built, and those kind of things add up. When you put a moratorium on, because you need to stop everything and get it together, and not raising taxes, keeping as a Democrat, not raising taxes,
which is unusual.
I can show you can run a government without raising taxes. Not only did we do that, but if anybody wants to say we didn't, you just got to go to the national financial reports. If there are 3 agencies that rate you, and it's Standard & Poor's, Fitch, and Moody's. Well, they're the ones that say give you a report card. We took it from AA, it was AA, B, AAA to AAA. And that's the highest rate. We were one of 22 governments, and there were 3,000 local governments. There were 22 that had AAA. And we're going to lose it, I can tell you.
Yeah, and we're headed that way. I don't know who all is running up against you, and who's out there, and what they're saying they'll do, and blah blah blah, or what their background is.
They're all saying they won't raise taxes.
Well, that's
the
first thing I've
heard it my whole life. One person did it, and
you're looking at it.
You cannot afford to have taxes that are coming. No. Things are not as well as they were even in '97 in terms of personal income. Everybody's struggling to get by, struggling to make ends meet. 2 people working can hardly make it. The government has to be told, you got to live within your budget, because we can't live in our budget.
Right.
And that's the message there. But everybody will say the same thing, and people glass over and they don't pay attention. And like the stuff that's going to come out of me, we left the deficit, but yet following me the years, it was still $185 million. We have those documents. So don't believe what you hear, believe what you remember, and go back, hone those memory skills. We can get this county back, and we can do good things again.
Yeah, well, you did it the last time, Tom, and like I said, I want people to understand that you, once again, that you never left. You never deserted us. A lot of us deserted you, but you never deserted us. And when I say that, at the different functions where there was a need within this county, Tom Gordon was there when he had nobody at all, but you were there hearing the problems, doing what you could do. Because I know you were lobbying, for different things.
I worked very hard. I tried to stop the development stuff that was going on. I tried to stop the tax increases. I tried to get involved from a civilian point of view.
Yeah, citizen, and that's what you've been. You've been a good citizen. You've been a dedicated citizen to this area, this county for going on now since 1975. Tom,
Yes,
that's
sir.
a long time. You watch your
Too
kids,
long to remember.
Yeah, you watch your kids grow up here. They've gone to school. I mentioned Jen earlier. She's getting ready to go to law school at Widener. She told me the other day.
She's busy.
Yeah,
That's her goal.
Yeah, and her goal is to follow in her daddy's footsteps. I had a little conversation with her, and that young lady has aspirations of getting into politics too, because she watched what
She'd be good at it.
Yeah, she watched what you did, and she said, "Hey, wait a minute, I can help this community as well." But it's important because we got a primary coming up, Tom. That's what we're talking about right now. It's not so much we got a Republican, I guess, is going to be running. I don't even know who that is, but we got a primary coming up, and if you're a registered Democrat,
September 11th. You have to go to the polls on September 11th, and I would hope you would give me your vote, but at least vote on September 11th.
Yeah, and now on there, because I'm not sure, we've got how many different people are throwing their hat?
There are right now 4 candidates for county executive.
Right. I wanted to do it, but I was too busy. But no, I'll leave that to you. But I want to go back and talk about the no increases in taxes. That was a very important issue. Tom, for 8 years, we had no increases in taxes. The only county executive I know of, and since I've been here, that didn't do that. Tom.
No, it's the only one in history.
In the history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They give you an award or anything?
No, they tried to claim it. Before you know it, they'll be saying I didn't do it.
Yeah.
They did it.
Yeah.
That's what you got to worry.
But that's what I hear, and it irritated me at a couple of events and that I was at, that I know personally. I was there when you initiated it, started it, and said this is what we're going to do, and I watched it go through to completion, and you got no credit. Somebody other than another politician was standing there with pride saying, "Hey, look what I've done," when I know that they are not the ones that did that. I'm not going to point names or anything else, but people, all I can tell you is Tom Gordon is a good man. He's a good citizen. He works hard for you. He works hard for your dollars, that he doesn't take your dollars out of your pocket. You did that. You did. I want to, before we close out here, I want to talk about real quick, because when you first thing that you did when you came in, you talked about taking 10 organizations, reducing it down to 5. You were very smart, because I look at all the different buildings that we were paying electorate and everything else on. You moved that whole county into that one big office down there. That was a big project.
One of the problems with the government, it wasn't centralized. I went to try to get a plan for some development. It was over in the engineering building. Some was over, and it may have been done by design. But we try to centralize the government by people working together. You would have, sometimes you'd have a good day, you would have the parks people doing well, but the sewer people were slow. When it rains, the sewer people are busy, and the parks people are slow. So we combine them together, and you got economies of scale, reductions in employees and benefits, and without laying anybody off. And they work well together now. When I came into office, I didn't bring any directors, I didn't bring a staff, and they knew that I was serious. Nowadays, they have, directors and 5 or 10 people here and there, and everybody's making $100,000. They wonder why they don't have any money.
Yeah, well, that's what I keep saying. That's what I tell people all the time. I guess the best job to have is get into government, because that's the only ones that you're secure and you're making good money and everything else. But as we grow, Delaware, the largest employer in the state of Delaware is the government.
Let me mention one other thing. When I took office, right after I took office, an ordinance came in to reduce my salary. I believe it was from 65 up to 90 something and 100, and through the course of the 4 years, I passed an ordinance to take it. Well, first I didn't accept it, and then I was being taxed on it. I passed an ordinance to take it back to my original salary until the next term, because I hadn't ran. I ran on a salary being 65, and I didn't think it was fair to accept an increase. So I gave up a whole lot of money, but I led by example. By giving up my salary increase, by not hiring everybody I could. Then when I went to the unions and said, this is serious, they agreed with me. That's why they're having problems now, because they're taking money from people while they're hiring people for $110,000. And the union said that
Well, you
that don't
stimulated the
work.
economy, is what you did by the things that you did helped bring and stimulate the economy.
We brought in AstraZeneca, we brought in Bank One, we had a lot of projects that created a lot of jobs.
Yeah, and that's part of as county executive, that's part of your job is to try to create jobs with, first of all, it's a big responsibility. People don't realize it. I mean, it's governor of Newcastle County, and Newcastle County being the biggest part of the state
Right,
here,
right.
there's a lot of responsibility. You're out there, you got to recruit, first of all, try to bring businesses and get businesses to do business in the state of Delaware. Then you've got to be sure that all the people are happy. They've got my street lights are changed.
Right.
I know for a fact that we would call one of your young ladies is no longer with us anymore, Dottie. I remember Dottie. We would call Dottie on anything issue that we knew about, and within minutes, I mean, we had response from people. So you had a good team of folks down there that worked with you. And like I said, I want people to understand how you were able to marry everybody together. I've never seen a board, when you talk about it in Newcastle County, you got to also talk about the Newcastle,
Right.
the council there, and you had them. You would go in, and you guys wouldn't all agreed,
Right.
but you guys would come. But when you left there, everybody kind of got together. You got them all working together.
You got to be able to make it work.
Yeah, and like you said with the land use bill that you guys put out there, you brought everybody into the room and you said we're going to solve this, and I mean, you guys sat there. I know it wasn't overnight. It was a lot of work that went into that. I want to remind you, when you're looking at your parks and you're looking at your libraries, this is the guy that did it. And he didn't cost us any money, didn't raise our budgets. And the reason he's running, it's important, once again, to get him back in office so we can get some of this government straightened out, because it's been running rapid
Right.
well, we had a county executive that decided to run for senator.
Yes,
He went on to Senate, and then we inherited.
One was appointed to be in the interim for 2 years.
Right, and so he's kind of been running it, and I hadn't heard a whole lot about anything coming out of the county in those 2 years, except for I talked to the local police departments and the fire departments and things like that, and hear the hardships they're having. I never heard that when you were there, Tom. I mean, I got to say that
I
safety
treated
was
everybody
first.
with respect and dignity.
Yeah, and safety on our homeowners is very important. I want to remind you, if you want to find out more and help support Tom Gordon, you can go to TomGordon2012.com. That's the website there.
Could I mention one other thing?
You can mention anything you
What
want.
my opponent's going to do, because we saw a poll the other day, he's going to say, oh, he was indicted for all these counts that are too horrible. Let me tell you, it was a political investigation. It was all dropped against me, except for one person working on county time, and I accept responsibility for that. So try to read through the garbage that's going to come out and pick the best person that'll make this county a wonderful place to live again, with nice parks and a fabulous police department.
Yeah, and like I said, it was a railroad. I mean, the only thing missing was the tar and the feathers.
It was a horrible time, and they
Because
spent millions of dollars.
It hurts you. It hurts you tremendously here. I know that.
To be all that alleged, I knew none of it.
Yeah, because you did a lot of good things. I want people to know that. We're going to talk a lot more with Tom Gordon as time goes on, but remember, get to the polls September 11th. Vote and vote for Tom Gordon for county executive. We'll be back next week, talk some more. Tom, thank you so much for your time.